the living shit out of the Indiana Fever. So Indiana Fever, and it's been my belief that they will freaking fire everyone. And I do believe this. So if you're a Fever fan and you're hoping they'll keep Caitlin Clark, it's my belief that when push comes to shove, there's no way they can let her get away. They will fire everybody and start over. That's my belief. I cannot imagine the level of fumbling the bag that would have to be done. And there's enough votes here. This is a good test to see how bad this would be. Swag put this out, and it's starting to make the rounds. I voted. Okay, Fever fans, answer this. If Caitlin leaves Fever, would you still support the Fever? We got 1,145 votes here. Nope, my bags are packed is far and away leading.
What happens when one of the world's biggest sports brands tries to cash in on the Caitlin Clark phenomenon? And it completely backfires. That's exactly what's unfolding right now. What was supposed to be a slam dunk marketing campaign has exploded into a full-blown PR nightmare, with fans accusing Gatorade and the WNBA of missing the moment entirely. Social media erupted within hours. Fever fans weren't holding back, and the backlash just kept growing. But that's not even the biggest twist. While everyone else was busy arguing online, Caitlin Clark quietly added another staggering $660,000 to her growing empire. So, was this a marketing disaster, a massive miscalculation, or just another example of how everything involving Caitlin Clark turns into a headline? Let's break it all down.
Meant to the WNBA.
Everything. She's changed the dynamic and history forever for women.
I see a lot of young girls here today, and I see how inspired they are, and she's even gotten me back into basketball.
I think she has brought attention. She did it for us. We had never watched, and we have become big fans.
I don't think her contributions have been extreme as what people think they are. I think the league in itself has been getting better, and that's really what we should be focusing on.
I think she's brought a lot of attention to the WNBA, and it's needed.
I think it's great. I actually grew up watching the WNBA, so it's really exciting to see a resurgence.
She meant everything. I never watched it before.
We're letting her cook. Me dinner.
I'm buying Powerade stock.
Is it a play on like women shouldn't? No, they didn't do it on purpose. There's no way. How you came up with this and not in the back of your minds like, oh, they're just going to be like, oh, it's women. She just needs to cook. Didn't think about that in the PR room. Look, I'm a big advocate of.
If Caitlin Clark leaves the Fever, I'm leaving too. That's no longer just a comment buried on social media. It's becoming a movement. For millions of new fans, Caitlin Clark isn't simply the face of the Indiana Fever. She's the reason they started watching the WNBA in the first place. Her impact has been so massive that many supporters openly admit their loyalty follows her, not the franchise. And if the current situation continues, Indiana may face an uncomfortable reality. Losing Clark could mean losing a huge portion of the fan base that arrived with her. Suddenly, this isn't just a conversation about one superstar. It's about the future of an entire franchise and the league itself.
Listen, NBA players make 50% of revenues. WNBA players make 9%. And now the merch sales are up 500% and attendance is up, 40%. So they're going to get a raise. There's no question. And I don't really care that the previous 25 years they didn't make a lot of money or lost money. I don't care. They're in the middle of a negotiation and they're on a heater. So it doesn't really matter. I've said this before. I made an investment for 5 years and it lost money. And I got about 6 months left in the investment. And in the last 6 months, they started making cash. I'm not bailing on the investment. I want to finally get my money back. So they're going to get a raise. They're finally turning a corner. But and negotiating in any business is all about current momentum. It's not about 12 years ago. It's about current momentum.
These aren't just casual viewers tuning in for the occasional game. They're passionate supporters who have become deeply invested in Caitlin Clark's career. For many of them, their connection to the WNBA began with Clark, and their interest follows her wherever she plays. Their loyalty isn't centered on a single franchise. It's centered on the player who introduced them to the league. Jerseys, team colors, and home arenas matter. But for this new wave of fans, Clark is the main attraction. Wherever her career takes her, Many believe a significant portion of that audience will be right there alongside her, making her influence one of the most powerful forces in today's WNBA.
Media driver. She is a ratings driver. I think about the NBA post Magic and Larry, the NBA post Michael Jordan, tennis post Serena Williams, golf post Tiger Woods, right? There are certain athletes that drive the sport more than others. And that's not to take away from anyone else drafted tonight. That's not to take away from the other incredible superstars in the W.
For many of these supporters, the choice isn't between a franchise and a player. It's about following the athlete who made them fall in love with the league in the first place. That's why every rumor surrounding Caitlin Clark's future generates so much attention. Fans aren't questioning her performance. If anything, most would argue she's delivered exactly what the Indiana Fever hoped for when they selected her. National attention, sold-out arenas, record television audiences, and renewed excitement around the franchise. On and off the court, Clark has helped transform the Fever into one of the most talked-about teams in professional basketball. Yet despite all of that, many supporters remain frustrated with the team's direction, particularly when it comes to coaching decisions and how Clark has been utilized. Fair or not, those concerns have fueled speculation about the franchise's future and whether Indiana can build the kind of environment needed to maximize the potential of one of basketball's brightest young stars.
T-shirts don't bother me, but why do you take a shot at the Golden Goose, Caitlin Clark? You guys were flying before she arrived on one of those airlines that made you pay for a cup of water. One of those airlines that is the planes are the color of a highlighter. Now you're flying private. Okay, if you're in a band and you're staying at the Motel 6 and you add a band member and now you're at the Ritz-Carlton, keep your issues to yourself.
Much of the frustration among Fever fans isn't directed at Caitlin Clark's performances. It's aimed at how they believe she's being utilized. Many supporters have questioned the team's offensive approach and late-game decision-making, arguing that the game plan doesn't always maximize the strengths of its franchise player. Whether it's play calling, shot selection, or in-game adjustments, fans have repeatedly debated whether the coaching staff is putting Clark in the best position to succeed. Those concerns often become even louder after difficult losses. Supporters point to what they see as inconsistent coaching decisions, believing some players are given a longer leash after struggling performances, while Clark's mistakes receive far greater scrutiny. Whether or not that perception reflects reality, it has become a common theme among fans discussing the team's direction. As those frustrations have grown, so has a recurring message across social media. Many of the new supporters who began following the WNBA because of Clark believe their loyalty is tied first and foremost to her career. They argue that if the franchise fails to build the right environment around its biggest star, their interest could follow Clark wherever her journey leads next. Fair or not, that sentiment illustrates just how closely the Fever's future has become intertwined with one of the most influential young players in basketball today.
Actually, WNBA star Caitlin Clark is transforming women's sports. She fills arenas night after night, and her games have smashed TV viewership records. And if you watch Clark play, well, it's not hard to figure out why. She makes deep three-pointers look easy. And like all stars, wants the ball when the game is on the line.
For many of these supporters, this goes far beyond ordinary sports fandom. Their connection is to Caitlin Clark as much as it is to any team. They didn't simply adopt the Indiana Fever. They followed the player who introduced them to the WNBA. If Clark were ever to continue her career elsewhere, many fans say their loyalty would follow her, regardless of the city or franchise. That kind of player-driven support is rare in professional sports and speaks to the unique impact she's had on attracting a new generation of basketball fans. From their perspective, Clark wasn't just another highly touted rookie. She became the reason they started watching women's basketball in the first place. Her deep shooting range, exceptional court vision, and exciting style of play turned Indiana Fever games into must-watch events, bringing millions of new eyes to the league. For many newcomers, Clark wasn't simply part of the WNBA's growth. She was the gateway that introduced them to it. That's why some supporters have become increasingly vocal about how the franchise is managing its biggest star. They worry that failing to build the right environment around a player of Clark's caliber would be a missed opportunity, not only for the Fever but for the league as a whole. At the same time, many of these fans make it clear that their admiration for Clark doesn't diminish their appreciation for the rest of the roster. They recognize the contributions of her teammates while believing that maximizing the potential of a generational talent benefits everyone involved, from the players and coaches to the organization and the WNBA itself.
If you are a star in the WNBA like Caitlin Clark, she's probably one of the few people that anybody you can mention to somebody that knows sports will know Caitlin Clark. Yeah. She's getting a ton of deals. Coke, Gatorade, you name Nike deals. Now, I know a lot of the other players, like if you're the 12th person on the team, you're probably not making that much money, but I just feel like coming out like this, what are they going to bargain with? What is their thing they're coming with that's going to change their salary? And that's what I was trying to figure out. I couldn't understand because they're already rev sharing. The NBA already gives them money, compensates for the loss.
For many frustrated fans, the biggest concern isn't Clark's talent. It's whether the team is consistently putting her in the best position to succeed. Some supporters have questioned late-game decisions, offensive schemes, and player rotations, arguing that Clark's strengths aren't always being fully utilized. Others disagree, pointing out that developing a young star within a team system takes time and that coaching decisions involve balancing the needs of the entire roster. Whatever the explanation, those debates have become a regular part of every Fever game. As those discussions have intensified, so has the perception among some fans that the franchise isn't fully capitalizing on the momentum Clark has created. They see a player whose popularity has driven television ratings, sponsorships, merchandise sales, and sold-out arenas, and they believe the on-court product should reflect that same level of investment. When the team's performances fall short of expectations, frustration often shifts from the players to broader questions about coaching, strategy, and organizational direction. That frustration has fueled speculation about what the future could look like if Clark were ever to leave Indiana. Many supporters insist their loyalty would follow her, arguing that she was the reason they became WNBA fans in the first place. Whether that would happen is impossible to know, but one thing is clear: Clark's influence on the league has been extraordinary. Her presence has attracted new audiences, expanded media attention, and helped make the Fever one of the WNBA's biggest attractions. For the franchise, continuing to build around a player with that kind of impact remains one of the most important opportunities and responsibilities it faces.
She had Van Slugenhagen on her. She was like, I'm offended that y'all have white defensive players guarding me, and she put her in the torture chamber. You should have known from her little face that she didn't want this matchup from the beginning. Caitlin reminds me of what Dame does. If anybody ever noticed, her first shot, always a three. First quarter, second quarter, third. She sets the distance.
At this point, many of Clark's supporters insist this isn't just online chatter. They believe their connection to the WNBA is rooted in following Caitlin Clark's career rather than supporting a particular franchise. Across social media, fans regularly speculate about where they would continue watching if Clark ever played elsewhere, reflecting just how player-driven this new wave of interest has become. For many of these fans, Clark wasn't simply another rookie. They were introduced to the league through her. They weren't longtime Indiana Fever supporters who happened to embrace a new star. Instead, they discovered the Fever because of Clark, and that distinction shapes where their loyalty lies. Their investment is in the player who sparked their interest, not necessarily the logo on the jersey. That reality places enormous expectations on the franchise. Supporters want to see the organization build a team and culture that allows its biggest star to thrive, believing that doing so benefits everyone involved. If the Fever can continue developing around Clark, many believe the franchise will remain one of the WNBA's premier attractions for years to come. If not, fans worry that the organization could miss a rare opportunity to build lasting momentum around one of the most influential young players the sport has ever seen. Whether or not those predictions prove accurate, one fact is difficult to dispute. Clark has become a driving force behind the league's recent surge in popularity. Wherever her career unfolds, she is likely to continue attracting enormous attention, making every decision surrounding her future one of the biggest stories in women's basketball.
and the WNBA after Caitlin Clark. Describe these two worlds.
Oh, entirely different. 180, you know. The WNBA before started in 1997, the year after the Atlanta Olympics, and was launched into a time when women's sports was still not taken seriously by a lot of, people. And some of those same guys now, if we want to talk about before and after, some of those same guys, or guys like them, are the ones buying the 22 jerseys, wearing them to games, Major, but also to the grocery store and to the gas station. It is now cool to be a WNBA fan, and it is cool to love Caitlin Clark, and the spotlight that is finally shining